Hi all, in the previous videos we discussed about static methods and static variables in Java. In this video we will talk about few static methods that are present in math class. So this is the class that is provided by Java library and this exists in java.lang package. Okay, so on day-to-day basis we do calculations like what is the minimum of two numbers, maximum of two numbers, and rounded value, random value, absolute value. So for these calculations Java has already provided as a math class in which we have static methods to do those calculations. So let's look at few methods. Though there are so many methods in math class, let's look at few methods how to use them. Okay, so in this video we will talk about Math.abs absolute value. This particular method gives you the absolute value, and Math.random off and Math.round off, Math.minimum, Math.maximum and Math.square root of. We will discuss how to use these methods and what are the arguments that needs to be passed. Okay, there are other methods as well in math class. Okay, like cos value, Math.cos value, Math.sin value. So there are so many static methods. So if you see here, this is the math class that is provided by Java, and if you look at the package here, it is present in the java.lang package, and this is automatically imported, so you need not import this particular class explicitly in your main class or whatever class you are using math. Okay, and if you look at the variables and the methods, all are static variables. See, these are all the static variables. And even if you look at the methods, all are static methods. So all methods in math class are static methods, and we all know, right, to invoke static methods you don't need any instance. You just invoke a particular static method by using class name dot method name. And since all methods in math class are static methods, like there is no need of math class instance at all. So that's why what Java does is, even if you try to create instance, it restricts it. Okay, let's say I'll try to create new main of. Okay, it throws error because they have made new main of, new math of, sorry, yeah, if I try to create new math of, it throws error because it had made the math has private access, so it has made the constructor as private. So you see, anyway you don't need instance, and what is the point of providing access to a constructor? Now let's say, usually if you want to call Math.apps of directly, you can use this, but people, what they can do is they can create a some new instance of math like this, new math of, and they use apps using the instance also, which is not required. Anyway, instance is not required for math class since all are static methods. So it's better to avoid creating the instances, and the only way to avoid creating objects for any class is to make the constructor as private. Okay, so if you make the constructor as private, you will not be able to create classes from outside the math class. Now since the constructor is marked as private, you can't create an instance for math. Okay, now let me search for the constructor. So if you see, this is the constructor. Don't let anyone instantiate this class. They have made the constructor as private. If you make this as a public, then you will be able to create the instance of math class. Okay, so we will not be able to create instance of math class because all methods and all variables that are present in math class are static, and to access static variables and static methods you don't need any instance. Okay, that's why they are restricting, Java is restricting people from creating the instances. Okay, now let's look at the few methods. Math.apps. So apps is like, it returns the absolute value. Okay, now let's see what are the arguments that it allows. So if you see here, Math.apps of, these are the Math.apps of, these are the values that you can pass. So absolute value, what should be the argument that you should, like, what should be the argument that you should pass to get absolute value? So it would be it would be numbers only. That number can be in, like there are it could be numbers, right? That numbers data types are only 4 in Java, right? Integer, long, float and double. These are the 4 data types that are related to the numbers in Java. So to get an absolute value is nothing but if you pass negative value, it will return the positive value of that. So to get the absolute value, it works only on numbers, and you have 4 data types that are related to numbers in Java, that is integer, long, float and double. Okay, now let's say I want to get an absolute value of integer. Then you pass integer data type and the return type is also integer. Now if you pass long and the return type is long, and if you pass float here, the return type would be float, and if you pass double, the return type would be double. So since absolute value works only on numbers, the argument, you can pass 4 arguments, integer, long, float, double, and based on the argument you pass, it will return the respective data type. Like if you pass it, int will be returned. So let's do this. Okay, let's try out with few examples. Now what I'm doing is I'm printing the math.absolute of, and I'm passing the integer value here. Okay, integer. Next I'll pass long, float and double as well. Okay, now I'll pass long value -1L, and then what I'll do is I'll pass float value as well here, 1 point, okay, F, and I'll pass double value as well. So yeah, 0, 1, 2. Let's do here as well, 0, 3, 4. Now let's print what you will get it. First one is integer, second one is long, third one is float, and the fourth one is double. So if you see the value, first one you got integer, okay, and the second one it has printed 1, and the third one also it has printed 1.00343, and the fourth one it has printed 1.0123. okay. Now in some cases what we'll do is, let's say here integer L equal to, I can do this Math.abs of, okay. Now let's say long L, I can do this as well, okay, long, because like what I can do is I can do this explicit conversion, something like that, and I can do this long L1 as well, okay, because long value is greater than, because long lies in a different range, you can do like this as well. Let's say if I want to convert it to this int, right, it will not allow. Now if you see here, first one I have passed integer, okay. When you are passing integer, you can assign it to the integer data type. Second thing what I am doing is I am passing long, but then I am trying to assign it to integer. Usually -1 also lies in the integer range, that we have already discussed in the previous videos, this typecasting and the explicit conversions. So if you want to assign it to integer, you have to do this explicit typecasting integer, or what you can do is you can directly do this long, okay. Yeah, you can do this as well. Let us print integer L and L1. So you can do this as well. Integer L and then L1. So like in case if you want to do the typecasting, you have to do the typecasting respectively, because if you want to try a greater data types, like data types which have the longer range to the lower ones, you have to do the explicit typecasting, assuming that that particular value lies in the range. Now here, let's say you want to assign to integer. Java doesn't allow, you have to do the explicit typecasting, okay. Now you are assuming that -1 lies in the integer range, and since it's long value, you can convert it to integer. You are explicitly typecasting it and you can convert it to the integer, okay. Now let's say you use some long value, which is out of range, out of integer range, then you might lose some value here, because if you use a value that is out of integer range, let's say integer range is some -1, I'm just assuming this, okay, this is not exact values, 2, 2, 3, 4, something like this, say exact value. Now If you use value outside this range and try to assign it to integer, then you might lose the value, because integer values can fit only this range, and if you use a greater value and try to fit into the int, definitely you'll lose few values. Okay, so we have discussed about the Math.abs. Math.abs, it will accept four absolute values. Since it works only on the numbers, it will accept four arguments: integer, long, float and double. And you can like, if you pass integer, it will return integer. If you pass long, it will return long. And if you pass float, it will return float. And if you pass double, it will return double. And coming to the second method, random. So Math.random, what it does is, like, let's say you use this, it will return any random value from 0.0 to 1.0, any random value. It will return a double value that lies between 0.0 to 1.0. Let's see. Let me print. So if you say you got 0.54, next time if I print it, you will get another random value, 0.58. So whatever you do, it will return a double value. It lies between 0.0 to 1.0. It will return double value. Okay. So to get any random value, you can use math. Like if you want to generate some random value, if you want some uniqueness, every time you generate a number you want some uniqueness, right? Then you can use this Math.random. But a preferred way is you can use the random method that is provided in java.util package rather than java.lang package. Instead of using Math.random off, you can use the method that is present in math class lies in java.lang package, right? Instead of that, you can use java.util.random off method, which is present in java.util. That will be more better than this. But you can also use this, which will generate a value from 0.02 and 1.0, and this will return a double value. Okay. Now coming to the another method, Math.round off. So if you look at round, like you round a decimal numbers only, right? If you have an integer number or long number, then no need of rounding it. If you have something after decimals like 1.0, 2.1, if you have something like that, then only you will use the round concept. So for round, what are the decimal data types that are present in Java? Float and double. Integer and long are the data types that exist without decimal numbers, decimal points. But float and double, they have these 1 point, 2 point, they have these decimal values. Okay, that's why Math.round off accepts float and double. If you pass float, it will return int, and if you pass double, it will return long value. Okay, let me round something. 1.45f. Math.round off 5.676 double. Okay, let me print these values. So if you see first one, when you rounded it off, it got rounded to 1, and the second one, it got rounded it to 6. Okay, let us use 1.5. So now 1.5 got rounded it to 2, and 5.676 rounded it to 6. So if you use any value that is greater than or equal to 5 after the decimal, it gets rounded to next value. Now 1.45 rounded off to 2. Okay, now let's see 1.46. see, so after decimal, if you have any value that is greater than or equal to 5, here 1.5, what is the next value in next integer or long value. Next integer or long value is 2, so it will get rounded off to 2. If you use value less than or equal less than 5, then it gets rounded to the lower value like 1. If so 1.4 rounds to 1, and if you use 1.5 it rounds to the greater value. If you use value less than 5 it rounds to the lesser value. Okay, so Math.round off works on two data types, float and double, and if you pass float it will return integer, and if you pass double it will return long value. Okay, now let's discuss about another method, minimum of and max minimum of. So if you see minimum, usually you try to get minimum of two numbers. Okay, so and even minimum of also works on numbers only, because you try to get minimum of two numbers or maximum of two numbers or minimum of 5 values, but all are on number values, number data types only. And we all know there are 4 number data types in Java: integer, long, float, double. So Math.minimum method is an overloaded method. Okay, overloaded method where you can use the same method for different data types. Like you can get minimum of 2 integer values, you can get minimum of 2 long values, you can get minimum of 2 float values, and you can also get minimum of 2 double values. Let's try that. Okay, and max also works similar way. It's just that minimum value returns the minimum value, whereas max returns maximum value, but the data types it allows and the data types returns are same. Math.minimum of, let's do 1.2. Okay, now we'll pass long. Okay, 56 long, 65 long. So this we are using for long, and then we'll try for float and double as well. Math.minimum of, so this is the float double value. Okay, and now we'll try for float as well. Okay, we can try the same thing. We will do the same thing for max as well, because max also works similar way. Now if you look at max, it also has same data types as minimum, but it also returns the same data type as minimum. The only logic is max returns the maximum value of 2 numbers, whereas minimum returns the minimum of 2 numbers. Okay, let's run these. If you see first 4 values are for minimum and the second 4 values are for maximum. So out of these 2 values, 1 is the minimum, it returned 1. And out of 56 and 65, 56 is the minimum, it returned 56. And out of 122 and 12324, 122 is the minimum, it returned 122.4645. And out of 2343 and 34343, it returned 2343. Okay. Now for maximum, it returns the opposite. Here, if you see, first one it returned 1, now it will return 2. First one it returned 56, it returns 65 now. First one it returned 122, now it will return 12324. And first one it returned 2343, now it will return 34343. Okay. So this way Math.minimum and Math.maximum methods works in Java. Okay. And the final method is square root of. So like you know, right, square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 25 is 5. 5 into 5 equal to 25. So you have a utility method for that as well. Now let's do that. Math.square root of. And if you see square root of square root of, yeah. So it will accept double value. Okay. Math.square root of, we can check here itself. So Math.square root of, it will accept double and it will return double. Okay. Now let's say I pass 60. Okay. See, 16 usually it's an integer, but since double value, whatever values that you get for integer data type will fit in double, because double is the higher data range. Okay, double is the highest data range. Like you can fit long into double, you can fit float into double. Now let's see math dot square root of 16. It will return 4. Okay, 4.0. It will return double value. Let's try different data types. Now I have passed integer. Let me pass long value as well. Okay, if I pass long value 25 long. Okay, now what I'll try for float as well. Float, maybe I'll do 100.005f and I'll try for double value as well. So now, yeah, let me run this. So first one, it returned 4. Okay, it will always return double data type whatever you pass, and the second one I have passed long value, and for 25 the square root value is 5. Okay, and for the third one I passed float value. It can also fit into the double. So 10.0176 is the square root value of this, and for 1024 1012.089. So this way square root method works. So we discussed about few static methods that are present in math. These are used like whatever methods we have discussed here, Math.abs, random, round, minimum, max, square root, we use for our calculations in our core logic of the code, right? So these will be helpful. And there are other methods also in the math: cos, sine, value, seal, float. There are other methods as well you can use. These are just the sample methods that we have shown. Okay, and all these are static methods, and all the variables and the methods in math class are static. That's why you can't instantiate the class, because it's not required. Okay, thank you.